Write it down, bookmark it, keep track of it. The Indiana Hoosiers will be one of the best three-point shooting teams in the Big Ten this season.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Well, thank you again so much for making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And shout out to my everydayers, those of you that have showed up all summer long, all the way back from basketball season. I appreciate you, and we're looking forward to all the athletics getting started here at Locked On Hoosiers. I believe, after looking through this roster and crunching some of the numbers that we're going to get into today, I believe that the Indiana Hoosiers, the basketball team this season, will be one of the best three-point shooting teams in the Big Ten Conference. And compare that to a year ago, yeah, that's pretty good news if you ask me. We'll talk about that today. Plus, the exhibition for Indiana to get the season started has been finalized. We'll kind of get into some details about that. And it's Thursday, which means Curt, Cignetti, and Indiana football take the main stage at Big Ten Football Media Days. Well, I started looking through this roster, and I started crunching the numbers, and I started looking at what the Hoosiers brought in, what we're bringing back, who's coming in high school ranks, right? We've been looking at this roster, but I started thinking about it in the three-point aspect. And look, if you're an Indiana fan, which most of you here are, I don't have to tell you this, but I will anyway, just to refresh your memory. The Hoosiers were horrific at the three-point line a year ago. And it was a nightmare for this team offensively and defensively. We couldn't shoot the three, and we couldn't stop the three. And that's a terrible combination. And it's a miracle we won as many games as we did last year for Indiana. But now that we go into this year, with the roster being just so much better than it was a year ago, I think you've upgraded tremendously at the guard position, at the bigs, on your bench. That's where you really have gotten better too. I think all of those things paired together, the Hoosiers are going to be so much better behind the three-point line. And I wrote down some of these numbers for you, okay? From guys coming in and two of the guys coming back that I think will be the most effective behind the three-point line. We'll start with Miles Rice, your point guard. He shot 27.5% a year ago, which isn't crazy good. It's not going to blow anybody away. But I think if you get that up to 30, 33%, that's all you need from him. That's all you need from your point guard. Have the ability to knock it down, right? If you're open, shoot. If we need a dagger, take it. But we're not going to ask him, or Cannon Carlisle for that matter, I don't believe, to shoot 7 or 8 threes a game. And I just don't think that's what we need this year. Now, Cannon Carlisle shot 32% coming out of the Pac-12 a year ago, which, again, solid, not great, not terrible. I think both of those guys have room to improve, and based off of what the offense Mike Woodson runs, they'll have room to improve that. They're not going to take a ton of them. They just got to knock them down. If they are knocking down threes, the Hoosiers will be a good team this season. I look at the two other guys that the Hoosiers brought in, Langdon Hatton, 33%, right? If you're coming off the bench and shooting 33% from downtown, I'm cool with that. That's fine with me. You stand there, you catch it, you shoot it, you make it. That's going to be your job if you're Langdon Hatton this season. Yeah, maybe play some defense on the other end and hold your own. But they brought him in for a depth piece and for shooting. And if that's what Langdon Hatton does, cool. Fine by me. Add that to why this team will be one of the best. But the guy that's going to make a difference in terms of transfers, and you know where I'm heading with this, it's Luke Goode. It's Luke Goode. It's easily Goode because he shot 39% last year at Illinois. 39% from three. You want to know what he did the year before that? He shot 42% the year before. He was brought in for three-point shooting. That's why Mike Woodson went and got this guy. Because when you throw it to him, more times than not, a lot of times he's going to make it, okay? Technically not more times than not, but you get what I'm saying here, right? The guy can shoot. And percentage-wise, he's got to be the best three-point shooter on the team. Now, do I think he will be percentage-wise this year? Maybe not. We'll get to that. But I think Luke Goode will be one of your go-to guys. And he's going to bring up the average, and he's going to be your cold-blooded sniper that a team brings in March off the bench. It's like, wait, who the heck is this guy? Yeah, it's Luke Goode. I think he's going to be one of your biggest additions and one of the biggest reasons this team will be a top team three-point shooting in the Big Ten. And then you look at two guys that came back, a guy that's been here forever and a guy that decided to take his sophomore season back here in Bloomington. The first one's Trey Galloway, okay? And we know the potential of Trey Galloway. We know what Trey Galloway can be behind the three-point line. We know that he can be a 46% three-point shooter. That's what he was 2 years ago, which was one of the best shooters in the Big Ten, and really, really helped this Indiana team be what they were that year. Sure, there was a ton of talent. I mean, you got guys in the NBA that were on that team, but Trey Galloway was such a massive piece of that, and it was because of the three-point shooting. But he regressed by 20% last year to 26%. That's not what we're looking for. That's not good enough for Trey Galloway. But if he is coming off the bench, or heck, even if he is starting, 26% ain't going to get it done. But I think with more help, more guards, less pressure on Galloway, I think he's going to have a much better season from behind the arc. And then Mackenzie Mgbako, a guy that I believe will be the best three-point shooter on this year's squad. I think the offense will go through him on the three-point line. I think his confidence is going to be higher than it's ever been. And I think his skill is just going to be better than it's ever been too. And Mackenzie Mgbako is set for a massive, massive sophomore campaign. And I look for a lot of that to be from behind the three-point line. So you think about all those guys. That's 6 guys that I believe have the ability to step outside and knock down a shot. How many of those did we have last year? How many of those did you feel confident that we're going to knock it down? Here's how bad last year was. We were confident. We were more confident in our 7-foot center shooting a three-pointer than we were our shooting guard sometimes. That's how bad it got a year ago. I don't think that's the issue this year. And I think you're going to see one of the biggest jumps year over year for Indiana on the three-point line. And think about it this way too. We're going to win more games because of it. It's just easy math. You start making threes, that goes a lot faster than it does twos. And that goes to Mike Woodson and how he's going to run this offense. And there's more to get into there, but to give you the quick notes real quick, if Mike Woodson can learn how to get outside the paint a little bit, because that's what he had to do a year ago, then this team's going to be fine. We were one of the best two-point shooting teams in America a year ago, but we couldn't knock down a three. And then you'd have other teams go on massive runs, and boom, we couldn't catch up. We couldn't make up for it. We couldn't punch back. And they were hitting threes. We were hitting twos. And again, the math doesn't work out there. So I believe that this year, 2024, 2025, the Indiana Hoosiers, with all those guys I just mentioned, and maybe there will be a wild card as well, I think we're going to be one of the best three-point shooting teams in the Big Ten. Well, coming up on Locked On Hoosiers, we'll stay on the basketball side as the exhibition to open up the season has been finalized. We'll talk about what that means, how you can use that to lead into the opening part of the season. We'll have that for you coming up next on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Look, I've been to a couple of baseball games this year. I have family and friends that use Game Time for all of their baseball tickets, okay? We've got people that have been to dozens of games already in this MLB season using the Game Time app. The prices are great. The views are great, right? You can see the view from your seat, and you have so many different options. The one that I like is the all-in pricing, right? You toggle this feature, and it's going to show your total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. That's what you get with the Game Time app. And they have ticket coverage as well. So your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here again. Shout out to all my everydayers. Thank you so much for making this truly your first listen each and every day. If you're on the YouTube side of things, be sure you like the video, comment down below. Who do you think will be the best three-point shooter on Indiana's team this upcoming season? I want to get your thoughts on that. And also, while you're at it, be sure to hit our logo and subscribe to the channel, okay? We're making our way to 3,000 subscribers. Would love to get there very, very soon. So thank you so much for that. All of my audio listeners as well, I appreciate you guys so much. Be sure you follow there, turn on notifications, do whatever you got to do so you never miss our free daily podcast right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Well, it's been finalized as the season gets closer for Indiana basketball. We know what the non-conference schedule looks like, and we also know the first time we're going to see this Indiana team. They have an exhibition that will open up the 2024 season, I guess technically, right? It doesn't count. It's not an actual game. It's just an exhibition. And you see this across college basketball. Teams are allowed to play 2 exhibitions in a season, or I guess in a preseason. We only have the one on the schedule for now. I don't think we're going to get one, but maybe we will. Maybe something will pop up here as we get closer. But Indiana will have Marian take a visit to Assembly Hall. And it's really, really cool because you've got Pat Knight, of course, relative of the late Bob Knight, who is just a legend in Indiana basketball. And now his son is coaching Marian and will be coming back to coach inside of Assembly Hall. So that's a really, really cool part of this that I think they will, I hope, and I'm sure they will have a very nice ceremony, and he'll be celebrated, and it'll be a really humbling event for the Knight family and for the entire Indiana family as well. I think it's going to be a really, really neat thing for Pat Knight to come in, be a part of Indiana, and get to coach his own squad against his dad's old squad. So that's really, really cool. I'm looking forward to that. But this will open up the season. Again, it's on November 1st. And it gets the season going because we open up on November 6th, I believe, is the opening day. Yep, November 6th against SIU Edwardsville. With exhibitions, it's hard because there's so many things to look at. There's so many questions that we have going in because it's the first time publicly we've gotten to see the Hoosiers team, right? Or any basketball team for that matter. And look, I've seen big-time teams struggle or even lose in their exhibition games, but it's not that big of a deal. And I'm not saying we're going to lose to Marian. I don't think that's going to happen. But there are certain things you can look for while the game is happening. And sometimes it's televised, sometimes it's not. That makes it a little bit more difficult as well. But I think in this, right, if you're a coach, if you're Woody in this scenario, you're just trying to get as many different rotations as possible. You're trying to get as many different guys on the floor together at the same time because you've been doing it all summer and you're going to be doing all these practices leading up to this. And I always love hearing players talk about it, and coaches will say it too. They'll say, man, we're ready just to play somebody else. We're ready just to hit somebody else, is what they say in football all the time. We're ready just to bang up against somebody in basketball. They just say it all the time when the season opener gets closer. They just get ready, and they're so excited just to play anybody else. And there are secret scrimmages and things like that too. And I think those help teams in the long run. But look, you play the same guys every single day. Like, I think there's a chance you can get complacent. I think there are factors where, you in the back of your mind, you know what defense they're running, you know what offense they're running, and you get told, look, I play basketball. You get told not to play like that, but it's impossible to block that out of your brain. And you also know that player, whoever you're defending or whoever's defending you, you know everything about them at this point, right? Especially when late October, early November rolls around, you know everything there is to know about this guy, and you can basically guess what he's going to do before he even does it. And so that's what exhibitions are about. It's getting on the floor, getting those pregame jitters out, the nerves out, getting all of that stuff out of the way before the season actually begins. And I don't care if the Hoosiers win by 1,000,000. I don't care if the Hoosiers lose. We're not going to overreact on here, okay? We're going to have an episode about it. We'll talk about it, go through the notes, and kind of get ready to start the season. But at the end of the day, it does not matter. It's a good thing that it's happening, and it matters that it's happening, but the results does not matter. And I think that's the thing we need to make sure we get through our brains. Now, if we lose, am I going to say that I'm not worried at all and I'm 100% confident? Well, I don't know, maybe not, but I don't think it will have that big of an effect on this team. And I think this team's so talented, it won't even be an issue, which I've kind of said that about this entire non-conference schedule outside of the battle for Atlantis. I mean, I don't know. I've continued to tell you I'm not a fan of the non-conference schedule. I would like it to be a little bit more difficult. You get South Carolina coming to your place and you have the battle for Atlantis. But man, if we weren't in the battle for Atlantis, the non-conference schedule would be an absolute joke. I would like to think that if we weren't in the battle for Atlantis, that Mike Woodson and Indiana would have picked up a few more non-conference games like they did against Auburn last year, Kansas last year, things like that. But the battle for Atlantis will be a lot of fun. You'll play 3 games down there. A reminder on who's in that. It is Arizona, us, Indiana, Louisville, Gonzaga, Davidson, Providence, West Virginia, and Oklahoma. So you're going to play a combination of those 3 teams, which will be a lot of fun. But to get back on the exhibition, you're looking for just flow. You're looking to, again, get all the nerves and jitters out. Turnovers, if you got them, get them out, man. Work on things, work on communication, different sets, different play calls. Heck, you work on play calls. That's exactly what you work on is, all right, if I yell ace 1, all right, what does that mean? Do you know what that means? Do you know where to go? Do you know how it starts, right? Who has the basketball? And do they know if I call it, okay, I can start mid-rotation and just get in right into the offensive set? Or same thing defensively. All right, who's my man? Who's my guy? Are we in zone? Are we in man? Are we pressing? Are we trapping? Like, all of those things you can work on in an exhibition because you don't want to get into your season opener or South Carolina in week 3 and have to be dealing with, oh, crap, what play is this? What do we run? What are we doing as we run down the floor? What play are we in? What defense are we in, right? You don't want to worry about all that stuff. And then the more games you play, the more feel you have for your guys. And what I mean by that is you have more feel in the open floor, on fast breaks, on offense. You know what they're going to do before they do it. That's where playing these guys every single day will pay off in the long run. But an exhibition against Marian, looking forward to it. It is November 1st. That'll open up the November month. That'll basically open up the season before the official season opener against SIU Edwardsville on November 6th. Well, coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, today is the day for Indiana football to represent at Big Ten Media Days. We're going to be tracking it, see what Curt Cignetti has to say, but what do we expect him to say? We'll have that for you coming up on our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Final segment here on today's show. Again, appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. A reminder, we're always free. Every day, no matter how you get us. YouTube, audio, doesn't matter. We are free and available however you get your podcast. So there's no reason for you not to come back every day. It's free. You may as well give it a try, right? And I appreciate you doing so. Today is Big Ten Media Days. It's been moving through this week over the last few days, and it's bigger than it's ever been before, right? You've got so many new teams now, 18 total teams at Big Ten Media Days for 2024. And look, I love this time of year. I do, especially when we're getting closer to the football season, right? We're just over a month from most teams getting started like us in Indiana. You have week 0, you've got the expanded week 1, all that stuff. But we're basically a month out from the start of college football, and I can't wait, man. I'm so excited for that. And the way to get that started is right here at the end of July, where all the major conferences do their major media days, right? You've got the Big 12, you've got the SEC, you've got the Big 10. Heck, even the Pac-2 did a media day, okay? It was a media day, but they did it, and I'm impressed that they did. But here on Thursday at Big Ten Media Days, Curt Cignetti will take the podium representing Indiana for the first time. He also takes Aiden Fisher, the junior linebacker. He'll be taking senior running back Justice Allison, which makes a whole lot of sense, and offensive lineman, the 6th-year senior Mike Kadick. And so really, really experienced, good representatives for Indiana football. I'm a huge fan of taking your offensive lineman, which is not a popular bring, by the way. Most people don't bring offensive linemen to media days. And so I like that you're giving the guy some credit and showing that he's one of the leaders on this team, which, side note, let's talk about how we have a 6-year senior on the offensive line. That's going to help us tremendously this fall. You also, with Aiden Fisher, who is a stud linebacker, I don't have to tell you that. He's a guy who is going to be one of the leaders on the other side of the football on defense. I think a huge communicator. I think a lot of the defensive play calling and scheming is going to go through Aiden Fisher, which hopefully that helps us just kind of elevate our play a little bit on that side of the ball. And then you've got Justice Allison, a guy that knows Indiana, loves Indiana, and will represent this program, this school, this state extremely well on a media day like today. So great choices by Curt Cignetti. And when you go into something like this, you always are wondering, okay, what's he going to say? What are they going to ask? Is he going to get himself caught in trouble? And I'm not just talking about Cignetti. I'm talking every head coach at these big-time media days. And for Curt Cignetti, I think he will come out and just talk about the transition, right? I think he's going to talk about how it's been going from James Madison to Indiana, how it's been going from a smaller program to a Power 4 program. And hopefully he comes out and talks about a lot of the support that he has gotten from you, the fan, from the boosters, from the university, from the athletics department. I think those are things that he needs to come out and say, because let's be real, this is a massive PR event. That's all it is. Nobody wins media days. That's not a thing. It used to be, but I don't think it is anymore. Nobody wins Big Ten media days. But I promise you, people lose it. I've seen people lose it, and there's somebody who lost it already this year. Go look at UCLA, man. That poor coach. Oh, first-year head coach at UCLA. If you haven't seen the video yet, just look it up. Just look up UCLA football coach media days, and it'll pop up. It's a minute and something long video, and it's worth your time, I promise. That's what you don't want to do at media days. But I think Curt Cignetti is going to do fine. I think a lot of the questions will be what this team is looking like, what the roster is looking like, the overturn you've had on the roster this year, and just setting expectations. I think that's what a lot of the questions will be about to Curt Cignetti. So I'm really intrigued to see and hear what he has to say. Cignetti will take the main stage at 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central Time. He'll have that. And then he'll have a longer kind of Q&A, sit down with reporters and media later on in the afternoon. I'm sure he'll talk about fall camp, which gets going on the 31st, which is about 6 days from now, a week from yesterday. And so he's going to talk about all of those things. And as long as he doesn't say anything controversial, as long as he doesn't say anything that's like, whoa, why did he say that? Then you're going to be fine. And Cignetti's a pro. I mean, this ain't his first head coaching gig. This ain't his first time talking to the media. He knows what he's doing, and he's going to be just fine. I have pure confidence in Curt Cignetti, and I think he'll be a strong representative of Indiana football. And I hope, all right, as we wrap up here, I hope that after today, after everybody around the conference gets their first real look at Curt Cignetti and the first time they get to hear him truly speak, I hope they get the confidence in him that I have. I hope that they get the charisma that he has and oh, wow, this dude's for real, right? I hope he can portray that today, and I'm hopeful that people feel that as well. I'm not saying that you got to go out there and scare everybody and be like, oh my God, what's going to happen in Indiana? No, that's not going to be that. But I do think he can reinstill some confidence in people and maybe change their minds on how they view this program, at least right now in the summer, until helmet hit helmet and football is through the air. I mean, you don't know a whole lot. But if Cignetti can do that today at Big Ten Media Days, then I think he's a winner in my book. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers, man. I appreciate you all being here so much. If you are an everydayer, thank you. You're the reason we do this show. If you're not, it's easy to become one. Just like the video, subscribe to our channel, and come back every day. It's that simple. And if you do those things, it's going to notify you when we post a new episode. Same thing for those of you on the audio side. If you follow and turn on notifications, you'll never miss a new episode, and you can become an everydayer as well. If you've got family or friends that aren't listening to this show, why not send it to them? They can become an everydayer too. Then you guys can talk about it over the dinner table, right? Because that's what everybody wants to do. No, in seriousness though, I do appreciate you. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up the week. Okay, we'll talk about Cignetti at Media Days. Hopefully he blows everybody away, and we have a lot to talk about there, and more updates in terms of Indiana basketball, Big Ten, and a whole lot more. So until then, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.